I move that the Board of Education reinstate the rules of order and return to regular session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education reinstate the rules of order and return to regular session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the Board of Education approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're thrilled to have Joe Maloney and the Lego team from Marshall, along with Amy Unmacht from Marshall as well. They're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please step up to the microphone, introduce yourself.
I'm Mr. Maloney, principal at Marshall Elementary School, and we have 5 of our 9 Marshall's first Lego League teams here, Team Chaos. And Mrs. Unmacht, one of our coaches, our GT facilitator, and our other coach, Christopher Feller from John Deere, was not able to be here tonight, but we'll have them introduce themselves. And part of what they did this year with the first Lego League had to do with natural disasters. And anytime there's a natural disaster, sometimes there's a little chaos. So that's why we went with Team Chaos. And they just happened to pick Mr. Maloney's favorite color, orange. So we'll have them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Colby. My name is Carson. Hi, I'm Grace. Hi, I'm Hunter. Hi, I'm Brian.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes of the regular meeting on January 13th, 2014 as submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve the minutes of the regular meeting on January 13, 2014 as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Board salutes. Mr. Prohaska.
Yeah, I have 2 board salutes. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge our Buildings and Grounds Department for the fine job they've done in clearing our parking lots, our playgrounds, our sidewalks, etc. I understand that each time there's a snowfall, our vehicles put on 550 miles. And many have worked to the wee hours of the night, getting things ready for school in the morning. So a special salute to our Buildings and Grounds. Thank you very much, Bill. I also would like to salute the artists, the teachers, and Cheryl Werner, who is our coordinator of the arts, for helping with the Dubuque High School Juried Art Show, which was held January 6th through February 1st. It was really a nice venue.
Great. Good. Thank you. Mr. Byteen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to acknowledge, one of the major tenets of our mission statement is that we have a safe environment for our kids. And this month, I know we launched a Raptor visitor management system across Dubuque Community School District as an added safety measure. And visitors are required now to have their IDs scanned, which check them against databases of known offenders. And so I think it's one more step in our dedication, how important it is for us to make sure that our kids are in a safe environment. And so I want to thank those who made that possible and congratulate the district on taking those steps to keep our kids safe. I also want to acknowledge and thank the Iowa Senate, who on February 6th passed a school funding legislation that would increase the state aid by 6%. Now that probably will not survive the House vote, but I do want to recognize Pam Yoakum and Todd Bowman of Kokota, who together released a press release in favor of our schools and appropriate funding. It's not lost on anyone here that Iowa is more than $1,500 below the national average in terms of how much we invest per student. With a 6% increase, which was what the Senate passed, the Dubuque Community School District would receive an additional $4.6 million in fiscal year 2016. The Senate also unanimously approved an appropriation that would prevent school aid increase from causing a property tax increase, which I think is a good move. So I want to thank those who are in support of our schools, who want to be sure that we have adequate funding. I know that there's a movement right now to roll back a 20-year law that would require the legislators to agree on our allowable growth at least 18 months before the start of the school year. And I hope that's not successful in rolling that back, because it has a significant impact on our ability to keep people engaged in our district and not have to send out pink slips at an inopportune time. So, Mr. President, that's my contribution.
Thank you very much. Ms. Seeger?
Yeah, I have a board salute with the partnership we have with the Mercy Autism Center. For over a year now, the district has been working with the Mercy Autism Center at Eisenhower and several other schools to implement ABA, which is Applied Behavioral Analysis. It is one of the main tenets of the STAR curriculum, a research-based approach to assisting people with autism that increases the understanding of behavior and how environment affects it. So the Mercy Autism staff provides teachers and other educational professionals with detailed lessons plans, data systems, and assessment tools that help determine a student's progress in development areas such as receptive language, expressive language, and play.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Seeger. For the benefit of the board and for all of those in attendance, we have 4 public hearings that we're going to conduct tonight. 1 on the school calendar, and then 3 on different public improvement projects. So it goes like this. There'll be an overview provided, and then we'll receive and file proof of our publication, and then we will have an open forum, and then we'll close that forum, and then the board will take action. So to that extent, I'm only going to read this once rather than read it 4 different times. But obviously, if you are here in the presence of us tonight, I would invite any member of the audience during the public comment stage to step to the microphone with comments about items of interest. We'd ask you that you state your name and your address. We would also ask that you limit your comment to 3 minutes so we can kind of keep the meeting moving and give everyone an opportunity to speak. Remind you that Iowa law prohibits us from discussing specific employees or their job performance. We would also appreciate if you refrain from using names of employees in your comments. The board's role is to listen to your comments, but response and/or any type of action will not be forthcoming during the public comment section. But if you have thoughts to share about items that are included as topics for tonight's meeting, we would always invite those comments at this time also. So we, before we get started, always want to thank you for your support of the district. Thank you for your feedback that you provide the district. Those are always very key to helping us in making those decisions that we are asked to do. So with that, the public hearing on the proposed calendar is the first item of order.
I move that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the proposed 2014-2015 school calendar and authorize payment of the legal notice publication cost to the Telegraph Herald.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the proposed 2014-2015 school calendar and authorize payment of the legal notice publication costs to the Telegraph Herald. Superintendent Ryan Gans is going to provide us with an overview of the work.
Vote.
Sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I moved down here. Normally I don't do that, but just so people could see the calendar. And I know some of those seats over here to the side don't work so well with the overhead, so I do have a few copies of calendars if you can't see the overhead. Back in that corner. I thought it was important to talk very briefly. This is really an opportunity for those of you who came tonight to come up and give us some input, but I thought it'd be really briefly talk about the process of how we got here tonight. Most years when we approve a calendar, we don't generate too much public input. We used a little bit of a different process this year. We knew that with the state changing or potentially changing to counting hours versus days, or giving us the option to do that, that we were going to make some recommendations that would be significantly different than calendars we've had traditionally. So we wanted to make sure everybody saw that. So when the calendar or proposed calendars were developed, we emailed it to, I don't know, 12 or 14,000 email addresses to make sure that everybody who was a parent or a guardian or somehow related to a Dubuque Community School District student had an opportunity to see those calendars and provide input. We took input for 7 or 8 days. We had about 1,000 comments, which was great. That's why we went the process that we did. We did want to hear what people had to say. 2 biggest issues that we knew. One would be adding of professional development time during the regular school week, and the other one being spring break, which is sort of that yearly traditional conversation. Seems to be a hot topic in the Dubuque Community School District, so one that we wanted to continue and give people a chance for input on. So first off, in developing the calendar and looking at the opportunity or the requirement potentially to count hours versus days, and the reason for that change is some legislative things changed last year where counting days where we had 2-hour early releases due to cold weather or snow or heat wouldn't count as days because it wouldn't meet the minimum day requirements, so that entire day would need to be made up. So now that's still in the legislative for this year, and there's some potential changes down the road, but this is what we know today. So looking at the hours piece, we really set out with 2 goals, and the first of which is always needs to be what's best for kids. What gives our students the greatest opportunity to receive an education that best prepares them for their future. And we know that sometimes that comes in conflict with what we've done in the past. I mean, we've had a calendar that's very similar for 150 plus years. So wanting to do what was best for kids. And so we looked at calendars and we looked at hours and how did we use the hours to guarantee students a certain amount of contact time every year. Currently, there's no minimum guarantee. Under the proposed, or under the new legislation, the minimum, if you choose hours, is 1,080 hours. And so we built a calendar with 1,100 hours so that we have a 20-hour sort of a flex time. But this year, for example, because of all the crazy weather we've had both on the heat end and now on the cold end, we will certainly fall below that 1,080-hour mark. So if this were next year, we would make those hours up. So trying to develop a win-win, we increase the number of hours all students will be in class. Some of our schools, 5 of our schools, we added over a week of instruction time in this proposed calendar. So if this calendar goes as proposed, some students in 5 of our elementary schools will receive an additional week of education next year. All of our students will receive some additional time, and that ranges from 4 or 5 hours, which I know is minimal, to, like I said, a week or better. We put that out there. We asked for comments. We had the largest number of comments we received was opposed to spring break. There were 500 or so folks who were opposed to the idea of taking a spring break next year. We took all of those comments. We took some of the most commonly asked questions. There weren't a lot of questions about spring break. People either liked it or didn't like it. There wasn't a lot of questions to be had. But we took the questions that revolved primarily around the late start, shot a short video with some of the explanations as to why we did propose what we proposed. Again, increase student attendance time, increase teacher professional development. Hopefully the combination of those 2 things give our students more instructional time with teachers who are even better prepared than they've been in the past. And that seems like a pretty dynamic combination, which allows our students to, or us as a district, to follow our strategic plan, sort of up the ante with the usage of time and making sure we give our students every possible opportunity to be successful. So we went through we answered those questions. Then we went through the feedback, looked at some potential changes, and then we put out sort of a mix of those 2 calendars. And again, took make sure they had some time to review that so they could either comment online or come tonight and make comments. So the calendar that has been developed looks at a school start date very similar to this year. In fact, I think it's the same week, just off by a date. It does not include a spring break this year. It includes a Thursday Friday, Monday around the Easter weekend was for a 4-day weekend. And it does, of course, include the 1 hour late start every Friday, which allows us to meet the state requirement of having 36 hours of collaboration time for our teaching staff. It puts a snow makeup day in right before the winter break or the Christmas holiday on the 22nd, in case we would have a need to make up a day there, and does give us more opportunity to finish the school year on or about the 1st of June next year. So I guess board members first, if there are any questions or clarifications.
Any questions?
Can you explain the collaboration time issue, how that plays out?
As part of the governor's ed reform bill last year, there is a requirement for teachers to be able to do professional development, professional learning, and collaboration. So whether that be whole buildings, or whether that be a 2nd grade team or 5th grade team or high school social studies department, give them time to work together to I guess become better teachers. I mean, to look at lesson plans, to look at use of technology, incorporating technology in the classroom, all types of things to make those 1,080 hours, and we were investing 31 hours of professional development time to enhance those 1,080 hours or more of student attendance time. So it's 31 hours, but hopefully that translates into teachers who are even more able to deliver great education for their students. But it is a requirement, 36 hours.
How much would it cost if you were to do those hours, say in the 4 o'clock hour or something like that?
Well, to pay for that time outside of the normal school day, and we don't know that number exactly because we haven't negotiated a contract for next year, and so it depends, But in the video I said in excess of $1 million, and we know that that's probably a little on the low side, but wanted to make sure that the number we used was we would be at least that or higher. So again, we won't know that until the contracts are negotiated with the association, but $1 million is probably a little bit on the light side, but at least $1 million.
Thank you.
Dan, can you kind of clarify why the late arrival for the students and in service prior to the school day?
Good
and
question.
Also why possibly Fridays?
Both great questions, thank you. So Fridays, really when we looked at the calendar, again wanting to maximize student attendance time, it's pretty simple. There are 31 Mondays and 31 Fridays, and there are 35 or 36 of the other days. And so we wanted to choose the day, one of the 2 days that we were there at least attended, so creating the least number of lost hours for students. And so that was either a Monday or a Friday. We looked at Mondays, we looked at Fridays, we talked to some administrators, we talked to some teachers, and really they thought the Friday morning was better because on Monday morning it's kind of about getting set up and being ready for students. And the morning piece is because all of our staff members, and each building is slightly different, come to work contractually between 20 and 30 minutes, and some even a few longer than that, prior to students already. So we will already have that time. You add an hour to it, and then the professional development time becomes something more akin to an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 25 minutes, hour and 30 minutes, which is a much more dynamic chunk of time than 60 minutes would be. So that's really the morning piece, is it really maximizes student or teacher learning time and minimizes student disruption time. To capture that same amount of time after school would mean an hour and a half early release versus the hour late start. So it disrupts, it's more disruptive in total time. Some would argue that it's less disruptive as far as the part of the day, but looking at student attendance time is more disruptive.
What do we tell parents who, again, have jobs and schedules and they got to drop off their child at 8:15 every morning and 9:15 is going to create a headache? Absolutely.
So first off, we're not exactly, we won't know until registration is complete how far in advance the buses will be. So it may not be that everybody's bus is pushed back exactly an hour. It could be 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 55 minutes, depending upon where they're at on that route, the farther they live from the district, that sort of thing. We know that this is going to be a disruption. We know we're creating the disruption. I mean, there has been sort of an angst there that we're disrupting people's schedules, but I feel like as the educational leader, as a superintendent, it's my job to ensure world-class education, and that sometimes can cause some scheduling issues. But we have worked with several providers, having conversations with all of our elementaries have either Y-Care or St. Mark's there in the morning. So we started by just saying, if we added this hour, could you pick that up? So the kids who are already there, could they stay there? And the answer to that was yes, they could, in those buildings. I also asked, so if a student needed to come just for that 1 hour a week, I mean, if a parent didn't participate Monday through Thursday, could they just come during that hour? And the answer to that also was yes. There is a cost associated with that. I think St. Mark's is $2. It's on a sliding scale, so it's either free to $2, and the Y, I'm not exactly sure of theirs. I think it's on a sliding scale from 0 to $3.50. But we also know that we may have to allocate some of our folks, paraprofessionals who would normally work during that time, to provide some of those services as well. So that we will work to make sure, to guarantee that everybody who needs to drop their son or daughter off during that time will have that opportunity to do that. That we will have services available in all of our buildings. I suspect it will be primarily an elementary issue. There may be some need at the middle school, and the high school will have to see. I don't know if high school students would participate in that or not. At the middle school level, it probably looks like something akin to, and having had these conversations with the middle school principals, paraprofessionals in a library, computer lab setting. Students come in, if they're on campus, they'll come into the building and have time in the library to read a book, do homework, access technology. So while it won't be a class per se, it will be an opportunity for them to learn, hopefully, or at least be in a controlled, safe environment.
Comparative to other districts, I know professional development is done in all districts. How are we compared to other districts as far as how many hours we're offering or taking out of the school day?
Sure. So I have that list right here, actually. We are the only currently we have the fewest number of hours of the Urban Education Network. So some of you may be familiar with Urban Education Network. It's the largest school districts in the state. And many of them have had a situation like this where they do weekly professional development for 10 years or more. Dubuque we're just moving that direction now. We're proposing to move that direction. So they range anywhere from 2-hour early releases to 1.5-hour late starts across the board. But the only one who doesn't have the weekly piece is Cedar Rapids, but they have 18 early release Wednesdays. So we had 10 last year, they have 18. So they basically have, every other week, they have a 2-hour early release. So it's the same number of hours as we'll have if we would go to the 1-hour late start. But again, most of those districts have had them anywhere from an hour to 90 minutes to 2 hours, and have had that for a substantial amount of time.
Stan, obviously, given the importance of professional development, not only from the priorities we've set as a board, but just basic knowledge that the more opportunities the teachers have to collaborate with one another, to learn from one another, to improve their skills, means we have a better outcome.
Absolutely.
And yet, doing that in a way that is at least impactful during the entire week, it looks like you've kind of looked at every possibility and said, this is where it's going to have the least amount of impact.
Yeah.
Without giving up that need to make sure that we have teachers who are ready to teach.
Yeah.
So I don't know how, I mean, we can all object to any plan, but it seems like you've taken a really good care in measuring the impact of this as best you can.
We've certainly tried to do that. We certainly remain committed. We know that not every need will be taken care of, but we'll do everything that we can do to help facilitate that. We will make opportunities for students to be dropped off, to come to school at that normal start time in all of our buildings. But I truly believe that this is what's best for kids, or I wouldn't have recommended it. It's what gives our staff the time that they need. It increases student contact time with that staff every year, and I think it's something that we need to consider to move forward as an educational system, quite honestly.
Is it possible to use some of those hours, like how we've had repeated late starts this year? Is it possible to use any of those hours?
Yes, and that would be part of the plan. So if we get into a situation like this year, and knock on wood that we don't, but if we do, we will start to remove some of those 1 hour late starts. And we won't do it, we won't have a cold day on Monday morning and get rid of the late start on Friday. We'll kick it out a few months so that people have time to plan. But we will meet a minimum student year of 1,080 hours, which is significantly beyond where we're going to end up this year. So we will meet that, and when we get to the point where we can't meet that, then we will start to remove remove those Friday late starts and make those contact times. But we'll do that far enough in advance to be able to, people to make plans.
So how do you satisfy the 36-hour thing then if we start eliminating the Friday late start?
Then we'll have to look at some time at the end. So there's a day at the end of the year. We'll have to look at that day for teachers. We may end up having, there's a little bit of cushion in there. There is probably, and I didn't do the math, there's a little bit of cushion in there. There's not a ton, so we would have to look at time to make sure we get to that 36 hours. Again, we'll hope that, we'll know some years will be like that and some years won't.
Any other questions for the superintendent?
So you're saying that parents will not have the disruption of the 2-hour early releases anymore?
Correct. There will be no 2-hour. There'll be no 2-hour early releases.
It's funny how the pendulum swooped so quickly from I hate 2-hour early releases to I hate 1 hour late arrivals. That's understandable, but that's because I heard for years how much everybody hated 2-hour early releases. I heard that repeatedly. But you're saying then at the beginning of the day, I want to make sure I understand this.
Sure.
So potentially, if a parent wants no disruption in their regular daily schedule, they can drop off their kid on that late arrival Friday at the normal time. There will be someone there to supervise the child in some kind of a productive environment.
Yes.
And it won't cost them anything.
Well, that part, some people are already in Y-Care and St. Mark's, and so some of that is still, in some cases, the answer is yes. Some cases are already paying that cost. So we're going to work towards that goal. We understand we're creating the disruption, and we want to help to minimize that. But again, to me, when I weigh the disruption versus the potential benefit for students, to me, this seems to be the professional development time seems to make sense as to what's best for kids. I had one other comment, can't think of what it was. So questions? And then we'll.
I move that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments. So if there's anybody willing to or interested in, I'm sorry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. If you're interested, please step up to the microphone. Ms. Lucas has a 3-minute timer, so if you hear the egg timer go off, you don't have to stop right there, finish, wrap up your thoughts, but just so you can get a sense of how long 3 minutes is. It's not a long time, but. So is there anyone?
And just as a quick FYI, that's a pretty powerful mic, so you don't have to feel like you have to bend way into it. You always see people who aren't used to it, so you can just stand and talk and it will pick you up.
Okay.
Can you put the calendar back up?
Oh, sure. I'll break the camera, I can.
Nice work. That's why we need professional development.
Ours is up.
Is it? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
It's going to take 13 more seconds, I think.
Sure.
I'll wait here just in case it does.
Come on.
There it is. Great. Thank you.
Can you see that? I can't always tell from mine. Okay. I'll zoom in just a little. No. All right.
My name is Chris Fair. My address is 1405 Oath Court. First thing I'd like to do is thank the board for everything that you guys do. I do appreciate it. My main reason for coming tonight is I'd like to see the spring break. And I know that you said in the comments that people made that a lot of people didn't comment on the spring break, or most people commented on the spring break that they didn't want it. But I think because of the Fridays, a lot of people focused on that. Several people I know focused on their comments on the Fridays versus a spring break, so I'd like you to reconsider that. The THS poll, I believe the last time I checked, was 49% did not like the calendar, and it was specifically asking about Dubuque eliminating the spring break. 30% liked the school calendar without a spring break. I think it was around 12% didn't care, so if you give me 6 of those votes, I'm over 50% that would like to have a spring break. Second thing I guess I'd like to clarify about the late arrivals, it does not impact me, but I think it will impact other people financially because we're not looking at the people that will get the free daycare and the people that have all the money. It's the middle class that I think we have to look at, and it is disruptive. The other thing is you are stating that the minimum professional development is 36 hours, and if I do the math correctly, they're actually getting 67 hours because they have 3 days in August, 1 day in September, 1 day in February, and 1 day in March, plus the 36 hours. So if you can maybe later explain the difference between those days and the 31 hours, because this year they received 62 hours. So they're really only getting 5 additional hours. The other benefit, I think, of the early outs for me as a parent is I do not take my kids out of school for doctor appointments, dentist appointments, things like that. I schedule everything 2 months in advance for my son's ortho on an early out. So I think that's something to consider. I already gave a heads up to the ortho, start early on Fridays because it's going to be hard. And if you want our kids in school, and you have a parent like me, and I'm sure there's other parents that have their kids in school for that reason, we're trying to keep them in school as much as we can. And the spring break benefit is I can take my children somewhere, we can learn other things, have family time, and they're not getting taken out of school. So, no egg button, thank you.
Maybe I'll just jump in here real quick before I forget your question. Chris was nice enough to call me today, and so we had a good conversation. And so I did look up the TH polls. It was 29, and again, the TH poll is what it is, but just to share the information as it closed, it was 29% liked it, 42% disliked it, and 28% said they didn't care, it didn't impact them. And the question was the professional development days versus the collaboration time. So collaboration time has a pretty tight definition of what that time is for. So it doesn't count any of the beginning of the year types of activities of getting a classroom ready or meetings that building principals might have. It doesn't count the time when we do a all staff meeting at the River Center, those types of things. So it's a really tight definition of teacher collaboration. So small groups of teachers, 1 or 2, one-on-one kinds of sessions, those types of professional development activities. And so some of those hours during those days can be utilized for that, but certainly not all of those hours can. And I think those were your.
My name is Barb Weber, and I live at 6427 Sandwedge Court in Asbury, Iowa. And again, thank you for all your time and energy that you guys have put into doing the schedule. I am here to represent, I'm a parent and an educator, and I'm a director of a child care center. And I did send an email to all of you regarding the school schedule. My concern about the spring break is that it's a very, very costly expense for families. People who work in the community, John Deere, Medline, Cottingham and Butler, they take their vacations when it works for their families, and so they don't necessarily base their vacations on the Dubuque Community School District schedule. Not only is this time a very expensive time for families, and it's also hard to take your kids to Florida or Disney when there's so many people going at that same time. So I feel like having a spring break is a very difficult thing for our community, and it's a very costly expense. The other thing that I propose to you is, rather than having the early dismissal on a Friday, a late arrival on Fridays, I propose an early dismissal. And I see families coming to us. If they have older siblings, their children would be out of school. And so they'd have somebody to take care of their children instead of having to find a YMCA or a child care center or St. Mark's to watch those kids. Brain development is at the peak in the morning hours, so I feel like taking children out of school during those hours is very difficult, because I think that you're going to miss a lot of that prime learning time. So thank you for hearing.
Thanks, Barb.
Oh, no.
He's back.
Back.
3 minutes.
Welcome back.
3 minutes, buddy.
I am Otto Kruger, 2521 Wheatland in Dubuque, and I was just kind of in between meetings, and where would I rather be than homecoming and my favorite subject? And I just wanted to share, yeah, thanks, Matt. And I just wanted to share a few things, at least 3 comments on one of my favorite topics, and that was the school calendar. I would like to see the semester end before Christmas break. This will allow students to get all projects, tests completed before the break and prepare for the next semester when coming back in January. This would also allow the teachers to grade all the projects and the tests, along with inputting grades before the break, and help them prepare for the next semester when coming back in January. The second thing is that I supported the spring break when on the board only because to allow families to travel during that week and not to disrupt education. I have found over the years that it doesn't matter if you have a spring break or not. Parents will take the kids out of school whenever they want, thus causing disruption to their child's education. So the other reason spring break really did not work was that it never fell on the same time every year to allow planning in advance. And then finally, all this planning of the school calendar, the start of the school year, professional development, everything that is involved in, and I know that this is one of the difficult things to do as a board member, is involved in making up a calendar, can all be resolved if, and so far a school board has not had the courage to do it, other than Tom Barton that one year, to change the graduation date after Memorial Day weekend. So those are just my comments. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. It's great to be back. And I would also like to formally thank the board for your change in policy to allow past board members a lifetime pass to district activities too. So, thank you.
Thank you,
I guess I would just jump in with on the calendar that you have. It does end the semester prior to the holiday. One of the caveats to that is that they're not exactly the same length, but the building principals at the high schools met with their staff, their department chairs primarily, and said, if they're not exactly the same length, can you live with that? High school credit is based on a Carnegie unit, and so both semesters are well surpassed the required Carnegie unit, so there is that flexibility. And if the staff tells us that's what's good, and they concur with all of your points, that it's good for them to be able to finish one semester and focus on starting the next, I think it's also good for kids to have that, this semester's done, I haven't started, I don't have homework and papers and things to do over that break. And so this calendar does in fact propose that we would have, or the secondary principals have, and we would certainly concur with that, to end the first semester prior to the holiday. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susie Conlon-Kolb. Thank you for your service. I'm here to talk about, on behalf of being a parent and a teacher within the schools. Calendar is probably the hot topic all the time, every year, and I would like to ask a couple questions. I don't know if that's okay to do, but the Iowa law says that school should start after Labor Day because of the tourism industry. And I'm just wondering, why do we continually write waivers to begin the year before Labor Day and then have the numerous outs because of the heat, the hot weather? I would like to see school starting after Labor Day and in June, because it is so much hotter in the classrooms in August than it is ever in June. I think the graduation date, I graduated in June, way back from Hempstead, and that didn't seem to be a big deal. It didn't have to be over Memorial Day. It didn't have to be before the end of May. So I don't know if that's one of the pushes. The professional development, I think, is a great idea. I'm all for it. I have been in numerous professional development opportunities where I have gained a lot of knowledge, done what's right for kids, best practice. I just wonder if Friday morning is the best. People are kind of, they're getting ready for the weekend. Is it a better time to start off your week and on a positive note and get going at the beginning of the week rather than the end? If it was to remain at the end of the week, for family's sake, I think possibly at the end of the day, because then families could do a long weekend if they wanted, or take their kids and go if they so desired. Just, a few things. The other thing, I'm all for a spring break. Not everyone is allowed to have their vacations in the summer. As an educator, my husband's job kind of limits us. We're more of we need a break in the winter, and I think kids need a break in the winter. One way that we could do this is possibly lengthening the school day. Add 30 minutes to the day, and then you can, build in the hours that way. I would be a proponent of year-round school, but until the buildings are air-conditioned, I know that's not a possibility. So I just wondered about the waiver, wondered about, the other thing I was going to ask about was the professional development hours, which you addressed already, and I think that's it. So.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a reason? Is it all Iowa? Is it because of the urban network?
Probably best for him to comment on those, rather than we get a Q&A back and forth and we don't give other people.
Yeah, I've been trying to kind of handle the questions on the board. So the waiver, the Labor Day waiver, I'm not sure the exact number, but it's in excess of, I think, 96% of the school districts have a waiver. I think there are only a couple of school districts, and by a couple I mean maybe 2 or 3, and I could be wrong on that, so please don't quote me in the paper, but I'm very close to that. Have a waiver because they run the school year similar to what we do. We do fight the heat on both ends. Certainly August is really tough. We are working hard to alleviate that, because I agree. I think that we need to have a conversation, not today, but not probably for another 5 or 6 years until we have climate control in all of our buildings, but looking at length of a school year, or more of a year-round or balanced calendar, but that's way down the road. Right. But that's I mean, we start when we start, because even if you start after Labor Day, if you had 2 weeks, Labor Day is about 2 weeks, I believe, from where we start today. You add that to the end, you are easily into probably the 3rd week in June, where you're starting to deal with some heat issues. So.
I mean, I know other districts, in different parts of the country, they do for the tourism industry.
They do.
And
not every state requires the number of days. I taught in another state before I came here, and we didn't have the same number of days required, and so they don't all have the same length of school year that we have.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room wishing to comment?
I move that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the Board of Education adopt the 2014-2015 school calendar as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education adopt the 2014-2015 school calendar as presented. Discussion?
I would say that, one, I appreciate everybody's comments here tonight. I think one of the things you saw was people on both sides of the spring break issues, so you understand some of the issues we go through. I would like to say again, we appreciate all the input, and Stan shared with me the other day that we had over 1,000 people respond to the questionnaire, which, you know, again, in a district of 10,000 and 10,500, I think that's a pretty extraordinary number, to say basically, you know, more than 10%. Probably when you count the multiple kids and families participated in this, and again, I just think the feedback was tremendous. I think you know, I just applaud Stan and his team on you know, the transparency in putting this process together. You know, I can sympathize with those that don't like the 1 hour late arrival. I can tell you, as a father of 2 little kids, my wife and I can't stand the 2-hour early dismissals on Wednesdays. So you know, there's going to be people on both sides. And the only other thing I would say is that on the spring break issue, I know a concept that, you know, I've heard bantered about, and again, I'm not suggesting we necessarily commit to next year already, but maybe we get in a situation where we take it 1 year, but we don't take it the next, or there's some type of trade-off. But, you know, by and large, I think you're never going to please everyone, but I think the process was really strong.
Thank you, Mr. Streetel. Any other comments?
I agree with the process. We asked for comments from the public, and I was surprised at the comments. I was very much surprised that spring break was commented the most as not having. I've always been a proponent of spring break, but when you go and ask for people's comments on the district website and you ask for their input, I think it's only important that we listen to it. Now, we can say that there are the other side and listening to that, but we came right out and said, we need your comments, and we heard from it. And I also believe that Stan is looking at everything that we've challenged him to do with our strategic plan, trying something different, trying something that is outside of our comfort zone. And it's not fun making change. It's not fun adapting to it. I don't know what it's going to look like next year as far as how we adapt to the changes that are being proposed, but I am glad that we've got a superintendent that's willing to look at the needs of the district, look at the needs of our students and our teachers, and to put out something that is different. It's hard for change, and I just am glad at the process that I am very comfortable with our superintendent put forth to the public. It's been very transparent with everything that he's put forward, and I thank you for the process that you've allowed, and I know it's uncomfortable and will never please everybody.
Thank you.
I would just like to probably echo that a little bit, but thank the staff for all their work in this calendar. I knew it's not an easy thing to do, and the public for your input both on the website as well as attending tonight. And change is not easy. It's not easy to make changes. And I concur with Tammy in that I'm glad Stan is taking a stand here. We're making a better utilization of our time, our before school time with our professional staff, our teaching staff, as far as basically the 1 hour late arrival is going to turn into approximately an hour and a half professional development time. So I think that was a wise move there. I was originally in favor of these late starts. Being a high school teacher, there are many, many students who, that first hour of the day, especially for secondary, it's can be a problem. They're not quite as alert as they are later on. I was kind of hoping that wasn't going to be on a Friday, but I can live with Fridays. I was kind of hoping for a midweek type situation. As far as the spring break goes, again, one proposal might be to not have one next year, although we have that tiny little break around the Holy Week. But having that, maybe there could have been a possibility of extending that a little bit, but then it really wouldn't be a full week either. So it wouldn't be productive as far as parents to, let's say, take off and go somewhere. But I can see the child care problems that arise when you do have a whole week off. And kind of, I look at it also, you had to, basically people had to have child care or some type of service that was paid during the 2-hour early releases. Now basically you only have it for 1 hour. So if cost is a factor, et cetera, that should be less cost than it was before. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, so change will be difficult, but it's something that we want to take on, and I applaud Stan for being bold enough to try this.
I really like the ideas about the orthodontist appointments, so that was really smart.
I guess one thing that I would like to assure the board and assure the community that we're proposing to move this direction tonight, but we will monitor this next year from all aspects, from a teacher learning standpoint, from a student achievement standpoint, from a disruption to the community standpoint, and we will follow a similar process in the future. And this, the challenge that I have for the teachers and for the building administration and those folks is to make this worthwhile, truly make that hour something, or that hour plus something that truly is transformative for our system and for our kids, because that's what it's all about. The easiest thing to do is to do what we've always done, but the thing that guarantees us the same result is to do what we've always done. And in a world where we need to have a better result, we have to, I believe, look at other options. But we will monitor this. We will have this discussion a year from now, and if it's not effective, if it does create issue, then we'll have another discussion. And I'm almost sure we'll be here to talk about spring break again next year, and most years after that.
Any other comments? I want to echo the thanks to the staff and to the superintendent. What makes this feel okay to me is the fact that there's a high degree of alignment with our strategic plan. When you look at more instructional time for children, when you look at more hours of professional development for our teachers, remember that we're spending $3.5 million in this district every year on increased technology. That type of, and putting that into the hands of teachers without any professional development, I think is short-sighted on our part. So that's why I see that being a significant piece. And again, it'd be easy to pick another day in the week to start to do some of this, but then you get into significant costs to the taxpayers. So I appreciate the good work. I echo, we really do appreciate feedback all the time, not just when we're doing the calendar. We hope that the public will continue to ask the questions that need to be asked, and we're prepared and ready to provide you the insight. But again, I keep going back. We spent a lot of time on a strategic plan. We've got a lot of buy-in and leadership in the district around that. And I think that becomes one of the things. If you can point to your strategic plan and say that this decision is supported by the core tenets of that strategic plan, it tells me that we're on the right path. It may not be perfect. As the superintendent said, we'll continue to review it. Nothing's ever set in stone, but I think this is a bold move in the right direction and good for kids, so we appreciate that. There is a motion on the table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next public hearing.
I move the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the Central Kitchen Loading Dock project and authorize payment of the legal notice publication cost to the Telegraph Herald.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the Central Kitchen Loading Dock project and authorize payment of the legal notice publication costs to the Telegraph Herald. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments.
We need the overview, don't we? Or no? The overview of the project?
Yeah.
We do?
Bill, do you want to?
7A.
Billy,
Oh.
quick summary.
The Central Kitchen Loading Dock is a result of Buildings and Grounds recommending construction of a steel structure that will will allow 3 food service trucks to load simultaneously out of the weather. Rain, snow, ice. It's going to be a safer environment. Right now, 1 truck loads at a time. This will allow 3 trucks to load and get out quicker. It'll also make the kitchen a warmer place because there'll be a structure there blocking those north winds we experienced recently. So it'll make the kitchen a more professional and nicer place to work. And we'll also be adding a heat curtain at the door. So when the loading is going on, you've all probably been in businesses where you get that blast of air at the door. It'll kind of block that cold and heat. So that project was recommended, and the estimated project cost on that was $150,000, and I'll report back on how those bids came in.
Okay. Great. Mr. Strelo?
I move that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there anyone in the room wishing to speak to this project?
Not as exciting as the calendar.
I move that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Tom.
You want me to take this?
I'll do it. I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution adopting the plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost of the Central Kitchen Loading Dock project, whereas on the 9th day of December 2013, plan specifications, forms of contract, and estimated total costs were initially filed with the Secretary for the construction of certain public improvements described in general as the Central Kitchen Loading Dock project, and whereas a notice of hearing on the plan specification, form of contract, and estimate of total cost for said public improvements was published as required by law. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Dubuque Community School District, Dubuque, Iowa, Section 1, that the said plan specification, form of contract, and the estimated total cost of the Central Kitchen Loading Dock project are hereby approved and adopted as the plan specification, form of contract, and estimated total cost for said public improvements as described in the preamble of this resolution. Oh no. Mr. Burkhart, does it?
No, is there a second?
Second.
Oh, sorry.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve a resolution adopting the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost of the Central Kitchen Loading Dock project as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
4 bids were received on January 16th, and they are Clara Construction Company, a total bid, this is the base bid and the alternate, the air curtain I just spoke about, $153,750. Maryville Construction, loading dock and the air curtain, $165,965. Portson Construction, a bid of $167,000, and the Tricon Construction Group, a bid of $170,000. You should find a letter from Anderson Design recommending awarding the contract to Clower Construction and Building and Grounds concurs with that. If if you proceed on that, that'll allow the project to start in early June and be completed before the start of school.
Great, thank you, Mr. Burkhardt.
I move that the Board of Education approve a resolution making award of construction contract. Be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Dubuque Community School District, Dubuque, Iowa, Section 1, that the following bid for the central kitchen loading dock project described in the plans and specification heretofore adopted by this board is accepted, the same being the lowest responsible bid received for such work as follows. Contractor, Clower Development Corporation, Clower Construction Company of Dubuque, Iowa. Amount of bid, $147,950 plus $5,800 for alternate number 1 for a total bid of $153,750. Section 2, that the President and Secretary are hereby directed to execute the contract with the contractor for the construction of the public improvements, such contract not to be binding on the district until approved by this board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve resolution making award of the construction contract as read. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, that brings us to the senior high school library roof and installation replacement, HVAC. This is really hitting the max, HVAC upgrade. Bill, will you provide us an overview?
This came forward after a recommendation from Buildings and Grounds to replace the roof over the library area. And while we were there, we wanted to measure out the cost of replacing a roof over an elevator, a mechanical penthouse. We wanted to explore the cost of replacing the HVAC with the kitchen, as well as the kitchen refrigeration system. So there's 4 alternates. There's a base bid. We talked about this during facilities, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if I need to go through each one again, but that's the main quick overview there.
Is that putting in new air conditioning in there, Bill?
No, that's going to improve the exhaust system, and it's going to improve the refrigeration with the cooler and refrigerator, freezer, excuse me.
Is that library air conditioned?
No, it's not.
No.
I move that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the senior high school library roof and insulation replacement HVAC upgrade project and authorize payment of the legal notice publication cost to the Telegraph Herald.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education receive, file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the senior high school library roof and insulation replacement HVAC upgrade project and authorize payment of the legal notice publication cost to the Telegraph Herald. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Move that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Anyone wishing to comment?
I move that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session.
Second.
Moved and seconded that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education approve a resolution adopting the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost of the senior high school library roof and installation. Is that it right? Whereas on the 11th day of November 2013, plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated total costs were initially filed with the Secretary for the construction of certain public improvements described in general as the senior high school library roof and insulation replacement HVAC upgrade project. And whereas a notice of hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated total costs for said public improvements was published as required by law. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Dubuque Community School District, Dubuque, Iowa, Section 1, that the said plans, specifications, form of contract, and the estimated total cost for the senior high school library roof and installation replacement / HVAC upgrade project are hereby approved and adopted as the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost for said public improvement as described in the preamble of this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve a resolution adopting the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost of the senior high school library roof and insulation replacement HVAC upgrade project as read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
At the recent facility meeting, I went through all the alternates, and I would be happy to discuss those and answer any questions. But what I'm going to report is the contractor's base bid and all the alternates that we're recommending. 4 bids were open on January 16th, and they are Advantage Sheet Metal, a total bid of $443,066. Geisler Brothers, $343,480. Giese Roofing Company, $523,840. And Jim Giese Commercial Roofing, a bid of $409,504. Again, you should find a letter of recommendation from Anderson Design, and we concur with his recommendation to award it to Geisler Brothers. And that, again, will allow the project to start in June and be done by August.
What was the original estimate?
Thank you. The original estimate was $422,000.
Great.
So we're about $78,000 under the estimated cost.
Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education approve a resolution making award of construction contract. Be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Dubuque Community School District, Dubuque, Iowa, Section 1, that the following bid for the senior high school library roof and insulation replacement HVAC upgrade project described in the plans and specifications heretofore adopted by this board is accepted, the same being the lowest responsible bid received for such work as follows. Contractor, Geisler Brothers Company of Dubuque, Iowa. Amount of bid, $208,480 plus $135,000. Alternates number 1, 2, 3, 5 equal a total of $343,480. Section 2, that the President and Secretary are hereby directed to execute a contract with the contractor for the construction of the public improvement, such contract not to be binding on the district until approved by this board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve a resolution making award of construction contract as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to the Washington Middle School roof replacement project. Mr. Burkhart?
Quick overview on this project. We came forward and recommended a roof replacement. This would be the main roof, and as far as I can track it back, it appears to be at least 40 years old, and we don't recommend patching it any longer. It's at the end of life. This project was recommended to be, or excuse me, estimated to be $160,000, and we received 5 bids, which I'll report on shortly.
Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the Washington Middle School roof replacement project and authorize payment of the legal notice publication cost to the Telegraph Herald.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing on the Washington Middle School roof replacement project and authorize payment of the legal notice publication costs to the Telegraph Herald. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Move that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education open the public hearing to allow public comments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Anyone wishing to comment?
I move that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education close the public hearing and return to regular session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education approve a resolution adopting the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost of the Washington Middle School roof replacement project, whereas on the 9th day of December 2013, plan, specifications, forms of contract, and the estimated total costs were initially filed with the Secretary for the construction of certain public improvements described in general as the Washington Middle School roof replacement project, and whereas a notice of hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of total cost for said public improvements was published as required by law. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Dubuque Community School District, Dubuque, Iowa, Section 1, that the said plans, specifications, form of contract, and the estimated total cost for the Washington Middle School roof replacement project are hereby approved and adopted as the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost for said public improvement as described in the preamble of this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve a resolution adopting the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost of the Washington Middle School roof replacement project as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
This project has one alternate, and that was removing the coping cap, cleaning it, and replacing it. So I'm going to report the base bid and alternate 1. 5 bids were opened on January 16th, and they are Keezy Roofing Company, total bid of $237,040. T&K Roofing, $247,000. Jim Geezy Commercial Roofing, $190,237. Black Hawk Roof Company, $181,700. And Geisler Brothers, $145,050. This came approximately $15,000 under the estimated cost. So again, you will find a letter of recommendation from IAW, and Buildings and Grounds recommends entering into an agreement with Geisler Brothers.
You don't think we can get another 10 or 20 years out of that roof?
I don't think so. We've got some other projects we need to move on to.
When does this project start?
That would start in June and be done by the start of
Okay.
school also.
40 years is probably pretty good.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
a pretty good track record, yeah.
No warranty.
Not anymore. We need a hailstorm. We need some hailstorms. I move that the Board of Education approve a resolution making award of construction contract. Be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Dubuque Community School District, Dubuque, Iowa, Section 1, that the following bid for the Washington Middle School roof replacement project described in the plans and specifications heretofore adopted by this board is accepted, the same being the lowest responsible bid received for such work as follows. Contractor Geisler Brothers Company of Dubuque, Iowa. Amount of bid $141,200 plus $3,850, alternate number 1, for a total of $145,050. Section 2, that the President and Secretary are hereby directed to execute a contract with the contractor for the construction of the public improvements, such contract not to be binding on the district until approved by this board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve a resolution making award of construction contract as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the Board of Education suspend the rules of order and go into open forum.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education suspend the rules of order and go into open forum. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any persons wishing to address the board at this time? Anybody?
Well, come on.
At all?
Tammy Deer's thinking about
All right, Tammy Deer's thinking about it. All right.
I move that the Board of Education
Quick.
reinstate the rules of order and return to regular session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education reinstate the rules of order and return to regular session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Move the Board of Education approve those items listed in the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve those items listed in the consent agenda. Are there any board members that wish to have anything removed from the consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Facilities and Support Services Committee report, Mr. Barton.
Yeah, I move that the Board of Education adopt the following resolution. Resolve that the Board of Directors of the Dubuque Community School District will levy property tax for fiscal year 2014-15 for the regular program budget adjustment as allowed under Section 257.14 Code of Iowa.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education adopt the following resolution. Resolve that the Board of Directors of the Dubuque Community School District will levy property tax for fiscal year 2014-2015 for the regular program budget adjustment as allowed under Section 257.14 Code of Iowa. Any discussion?
It's a standard adoption each year, right? Make sure I've got that right. Standard working, we just need it, it's a formality that we go through every year, right, Kevin?
Just do this each year in case the legislatures were to change or not have approved the appropriate amount of state supplemental aid. It's just an annual one we do in case our funding is going to be below the year from the year before. For the upcoming school year, it will not come into play. We just do it on a regular routine basis to make sure we do it in case those circumstances take place. Will have no effect this year as of right now, we have 4% for the upcoming school year, so it won't come into play this year.
Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Kevin, just to confirm, if you would allow me, we've lowered the tax levy twice in the last, is it the last 2 years?
Correct.
Almost to the total about 15%,
I don't know the exact percent, but it's been decreased.
in that
yes.
neighborhood. Would you anticipate us being in that same position, or is it too early to tell?
It's too early to tell right now. Haven't developed the aid and levy document enough to have a good idea where that'll come in. The tax base did increase, as you may have read in the paper over the weekend that the city reported on. So we'll have to see how it falls out for us. We'll have a much better idea next month.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Move that the Board of Education approve change order number 3 to Portson Construction Incorporated on the Sageville School Mechanical Project in the increased amount of $7,881.54.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve change order number 3 to Portson Construction, Inc. on the Sageville School Mechanical Project in the increased amount of $7,881.54. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I move that the Board of Education approve change order number 2 to Portson Construction Incorporated on the House Computer Lab renovation project in the decreased amount of $3,310.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve change order number 2 to Portson Construction, Inc. on the House Computer Lab renovation project in the decreased amount of $3,310 even. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education approve Anderson Design and Consulting Incorporated as the architect engineer for the Jefferson Middle School locker replacement project at a cost of $6,500.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve Anderson Design and Consulting, Inc. as the architect engineer for the Jefferson Middle School locker replacement project at a cost of $6,500 even. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
They are dancing in the hallways at Jefferson Middle School.
Tiny little lockers.
Kids can finally fit their coats and their bags in the lockers. They will be.
Kids being put in the- All right, thank you, Tom. Educational Programs Policy Strategy Committee report, Ms. Ryan.
We received a nice update from on special education about the challenging behavior team and how it's being implemented and how it is receiving positive feedback and results already, and it's responding to challenging needs within a few days to the schools and the students that need it, which is very positive to hear, as opposed to past situations they've taken much longer than 2 days. So that's good to see that that's happening. And they also, we were reported upon hearing that we've been reviewing the restraint and seclusion data, and that has been decreased significantly since new ways of meeting those needs are happening. So
I can comment on that. I think it's worth mentioning that the AEA does provide services for what are supposed to be severe behavior circumstances. But in reality, what was occurring is that simply they weren't responding in a timely fashion. So Rosie Werder and the team, I think, deserve kudos for saying, you know, we can't, this can't stand.
Right.
And we need to have our own team, and it's proven to be very successful, and I'm delighted to hear that.
And we also started to monitor the suspensions, especially for kids on behavioral and special needs, because I think that is an area that is near and dear to my heart, and we've been trying to work on. But you know, again, I think culturally we've still got some, you know, we still want to fit square pegs into square holes sometimes, and sometimes kids around and they don't quite fit. So you know, there is some work to be done on the cultural side, but we're moving in the right direction. So I appreciate everybody's efforts there.
Great. Anything else?
No,
Okay.
that's it.
Thank you. New business.
I move that the Board of Education allow student 808898 to re-enter the Dubuque Community School District effective February 26, 2014.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education allow student 808898 to re-enter the Dubuque Community School District effective February 26, 2014. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just real brief on, we have the board moved to several years ago, certainly before I was here, to looking at contracts for some students who are expelled for disciplinary reasons, and the process is to meet with the superintendent, sort of work out a list of things they need to accomplish in order to be considered for readmittance. And I just wanted to mention this one because of the extreme amount of work that this young man, and particularly his mother, did for him, or not for him, I don't mean that way, as far as getting organized, to really reinforce with him her insistence on the importance of education. I should have brought the binders with me, but it takes a bag this big. He can't wait to come back to school because she went out of her way to ensure that he was enrolled in some online coursework, kept up academically every day, went above and beyond the hours of volunteer work that we asked them to do. And so I'm just very excited. This is a very young student, one that we would normally not look to expel based on age, but circumstances dictated we take this, and they took it, both the student and the mother, extremely seriously, and I'm quite sure he'll be successful.
That's good to hear.
Absolutely.
Bravo,
Yep.
Very good to hear. I move that the Board of Education take no further disciplinary action related to students number 709404, number 705861, and number 805154 at this time.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Education take no further disciplinary action related to students 709404, 705-861, and 805-154 at this time. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Board member and administrative issues. Anything from the board?
I was going to just mention that, probably to remind Craig's going, and Amy Hawkins, and Kevin from the school district, and a couple of representatives from the city are going to visit some aquatic centers here in February. So it's kind of a indicator that there's progress in that direction.
I was told I could bring my swimming suit.
We'll be eager to hear about the warm weather in St. Louis and Kansas City.
They've got a big diving board in St. Louis. Get ready.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
Couple of quick things. I mean, we talk about our facility plan, and I feel really good about where we're going in the facility plan. Bill, your facility plan goes out how far?
32 years.
30 years. So right down to simple replacements of basic materials in our buildings. And boy, when I wasn't aware that kind of planning had gone on. We're out 10 years with a macro picture, but Bill is planning out 30 years with items such as, yeah, so that we don't get stuck behind the 8 ball down the road, which I think is just great planning. So I want to compliment the fact that we have that kind of planning going on in the district. That's big money stuff. The other thing I'd mention real quick, just this doesn't quite go into the specific decision of the calendar this year, but this calendar thing is tough every single year. And so I think and I'm glad that it's tough, because it's an indicator, Stan, that I think the district did all it could to really pull input forward. And the more of that we get, especially on a school calendar, the more that it creates almost a log jam on the ability to just rubber stamp one simple calendar comfortably. And so I sit here, and I've been struggling with this for 3 terms on the board, and you get 35% approval rating at best on a calendar. It just, you can't get any better than that. Sooner or later, either somebody doesn't like Christmas, or they don't like the start date, or they don't like the graduation date, or they don't like the early out, or they don't like the late arrival, or they don't like spring break, whatever it is, it's just so difficult. Anyone who has ever planned a family vacation understands how difficult it is to get people on the same page with how they want to use their time. So I guess and I'm uncomfortable every year when we discuss this, because you want to make people happy and you simply cannot. But I think the credit that I want to throw at Stan and his group is that they chose to spend a lot of time digesting 1,000 pieces of input from the community, and that's why it's uncomfortable. I think it's because we've gotten that much input, and if we're getting that kind of input, like Tammy says, we do need to listen to it, and when you listen to it, there really is not a simple consensus you can come to. So I think the fact that the tires were kicked pretty hard on this one is just a credit to the fact that we are asking the citizens to help make decisions like this that impact their time.
Thank you. And I guess if I could jump in, certainly that's made possible because of the strategic plan and the openness of the board to hear input and engage the community, but also because we have a pretty good plan as far as communication. I mean, having the ability to put out and have a dialogue with, instead of having a committee of 6 people decide the calendar, we literally tried to do it with 10,000 people, knowing we weren't going to make everybody happy, but giving everybody an opportunity to weigh in on the subject who wanted to, and really having a communications director person, team that's focused on that is vital. So, Mike Size and Tricia and that group did a great job of helping facilitate that process.
Great. Preview.
In 2 weeks, we will meet to look at our second of 3 updates on the strategic plan for the school year. So it should be a good meeting. We'll be in more of a square discussion mode and look at where we've come and where we need to get between now and June.
All right. Very good. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.